Welcome to the Reel Rematch, the podcast where we unpack Hollywood's twin films, sometimes cloned on purpose, sometimes by accident, but always in competition. Today's matchup, Penguin Wars, Happy Feet versus Surf's Up. Two animated penguin adventures hitting theatres just months apart. One dances its way through a musical Antarctic odyssey, the other rides the waves in a mockumentary-style surfing comedy. Which film charmed audiences the most? Which one carved out the biggest splash at the box office? And which penguin tale still waddles strongest in fans' hearts today?
Jeff, welcome to the next episode of the Reel Rematch.
How are you, Justin?
Mate, really good, and really good after seeing these two films.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've got to say, I honestly don't believe I've seen these two films before.
I realised I hadn't either. So probably intersected with Happy Feet tangentially somewhere, but never seen Surf's Up.
Yeah, I mean, was aware of the films, but didn't jump into them. I mean, like animation that I was into in sort of like mid-2000s would be more, the Warner Brothers or the DC spin-offs that they used to run, where it'd be like Batman this or, anyone else from sort of like the DC stable. And I was still in a bit of Japanese anime, but had gone off that after my interest peaking in kind of the late 90s.
Yep.
I'd still go and see some of the really big, cultural phenomenons like Shrek and things like that. But
yeah, I was a big Pixar fan. Always loved the Pixar movies.
Yeah, these two passed me by. So I was really happy to actually, visit them for the first time, and I had a really, really good time watching both.
Yeah, both great films.
So, and both films, Jeff, about penguins.
That's where we intersect on this one, pretty much. Penguins.
So it made me think, and I haven't thought too deeply about penguins. 2006, 2007. I mean, is this peak Penguin? Right? So I looked at the decade of the 2000s, and there's a lot of Penguin content, Jeff, right? So I'm going to go through a bit of a list, right, that I found where penguins were front and center, they were the content, or they were a central motif, right? So in no particular order, right?
Yep.
Now, a few episodes ago, we did Madagascar.
Yes.
Now, it's not a penguin film, right? But penguins are major supporting characters, obviously Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico. And I think initially, and you're the one who did the research on this, if I recall correctly, said that Madagascar initially was conceived as a rockumentary with penguins in a rock band.
That's right. So the four became the spy penguins, were originally meant to be like a Beatles-style rockumentary of four penguins in a band. That's right. Yeah, that was part of the research we did. So
obviously there was a bit of a spin-off anyway, but that's next decade. But, we've got Madagascar. We have obviously Happy Feet, one of the two films that we're reviewing today. Some would say arguably the defining sort of feature film of the decade. It certainly won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature that year. And then Surf's Up a year later was also Oscar nominated, didn't take away the trophy, but was nominated. And then Madagascar 2 in 2008, again, not penguin-centric, but the Penguin Squad has a major subplot, not dissimilar to the first movie. Now, we get a little bit obtuse or tangential, and that is Mary and Max in 2009 features a central penguin motif, which is Max's obsession, right? So does that count or not? But again, fixation and obsession and, interest in penguins. And, the case I'm litigating for is this peak penguin from a decade perspective.
Yep.
Then there were like a whole heap of penguin-centric documentaries. The BBC had The Life of Birds, right? The Mastery of Flight, right? Aired between 98 and 2001. There was substantial penguin material, right? And again, there's some that came a little bit before, but certainly the 2000-2001 content filming the decade of observation. Then there was especially the early editions of the Spy series, Penguins, Spy in the Huddle. There was, this BBC sort of remote robotic camera sort of documentary between 2003 and 2005. So there was some really strong penguin content that came out of that. Seen penguins in ways that we hadn't been able to observe them in the past.
Yeah.
Our variation on that theme is the Wild Antarctica / National Geographic penguin programming across the decade. There were multiple releases where penguins were front and centre, including Penguin Prey in 2003, Penguin Oasis, and Birds of the Ice, two components released in 2004, and then Penguins of Antarctica in 2005. And then there was an episode, a part of the Blue Planet TV series in 2001 that was brought to us by Sir David Attenborough. Episode 4, Frozen Seas. So it was a global phenomenon, obviously, the documentary, and that episode was heavily penguin-focused. And then another by Sir David, a TV series called Planet Earth that launched in 2006, Episode 6, Ice Worlds. It featured emperor penguins and aired globally and became a cultural event. And then, Jeff, we've got, and maybe I should have led with this, March of the Penguins in 2005.
Almost the king of the lot of them.
The definitive penguin documentary, right? Won the Oscar, huge box office, huge cultural impact. So there was a film adaptation of one of Sir David's series, Blue Planet, called Deep Blue, that came out in 2003, and that had extensive emperor penguin sequences. And then in 2007, Werner Herzog came out with an Antarctica film called Encounters at the End of the World. And there was multiple penguin sequences, including the famous deranged penguin moment. So not exclusively about penguins, but certainly remembered for them. Which brings me to the question. So, I think I've, done the laundry list of penguin content.
Pretty much.
To start to set the foundation that this was a peak penguin decade. Why the 2000s, Jeff?
Well, there's probably multiple reasons about it, I believe, but obviously, like you've touched on, a lot of these, like there was a global surge in nature documentary prestige at those points. The BBC, the National Geographic Channel, those kind of guys. There were watershed moments for these sort of nature documentaries, like you mentioned. Sir David Attenborough's Blue Planet and Planet Earth were cultural and instant, huge international phenomenons, because the cinematography on these was unprecedented. We'd obviously had technological breakthroughs on how cameras worked. So you could, the innovations including like stabilized small gyro cameras. You could have long range zoom lenses that were a lot deeper. You could put cameras inside of colonies and hide them, heat shield them from people. There was remote spy cameras, like you said, that Penguin Spy in the Huddle is a good example for that. And they had just, lots of HD formatting and stuff so that you didn't have the intrusion of people into these nature areas that probably limited the results. So, they could film like the Emperor Penguin huddles in March of the Penguins, underwater hunting, the chicks feeding, the surviving in storms, all those kind of things that were impossible shots in the 90s and before, all of a sudden became possible and just instantly absorbable because we'd never seen anything like that, right? And then obviously, as you said, from Madagascar in 2005, penguins became popular. They were hits, Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, they were all instant megastars, even though, like you said, they have a small feature in their role. So, Hollywood's perception was penguins are funny, penguins sell, so let's go, which led to, even though they were developed, led to Happy Feet, led to Surf's Up. There was obviously the penguins got a bigger role in Escape in Madagascar too, Escape to Africa, like you said. You've got the massive 1-2 critical and commercial punch of March of the Penguins. He talked about how it made $127 million at the box office, which is enormous money for a documentary, won the Oscar. all those kind of things. So I think, the combination of the vulnerability, the monogamy mythology, the harsh environmental heroism just made Penguin's narrative gold, right? And so greenlighting a Penguin project became easy. So plus Antarctica was culturally hot. As you mentioned, most of those things you mentioned are Antarctic shot films. So a lot of the penguins in those areas. We've got the global warming discourse continually going on even to this day. The melting ice shelves, which obviously is adjusting the environments for the penguins. And then you've got like Herzog's film introducing sort of existential and absurdist penguins, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave a big environmental 1-2 punch to us, emotionally as well. So, but yeah, they've got the perfect family biology penguins. They're cute, they're simple, they're easy, they're visually appealing.
Yeah.
The way they move is always considered slightly funny and comedic. So they're always dressed nicely in their tuxedos. So I think if you're an animal, you can universally recognise it's a penguin. So I think that's, then you've got these two films we're going to talk about. They were both Oscar nominated. Admittedly, Happy Feet won, like you said, but Surf's Up didn't get there. So I think that's why there was so much penguin-themed contact, because everything had just changed dramatically how we could absorb penguin information at the time. So,
and I mean, like they are, fascinating. You can't help but, it's like stare at them. Really,
yeah.
I mean, they really do capture your attention, and it takes a little while until you can break away. There is something a little bit hypnotic,
yes,
transfixing at least about penguins. They are really unique, creatures.
Yeah.
So that's a great breakdown as to why, and not dissimilar to last episode. Again, technology playing a part, albeit in a different manner. By bringing us closer to penguin stories and giving us penguin content in a way we never really interacted that, which actually deepened to further our interest in wanting to get to know more or be exposed to more penguin content. So that's an interesting connection from our previous episode around fairy tales and the role that technology from a CGI visual effects perspective had.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it, Jeff. Like we can do why these two particular films came out a little bit later, but run the numbers for me. How do these two films go?
So they both did pretty well. Obviously, one I think has become more of a cultural phenomenon, a huge hit, and people know more about than the other. So Happy Feet did come first. Came out in 2006, but on the end of the year, November 17th, that came out. Surf's Up came out the following year in the Northern Summer, June 8th, 2007. They both did well at the box office, but one was obviously a massive box office winner. But they returned about the same for their respective studios. So Happy Feet, massive, went wide, 3,800 screens, took $41.5 million on its opening weekend, went on to do $198 million domestically, which is bloody good result for 2006, 2007. International was almost the same, taking another $187 million. So this ended with a worldwide of $385 million. Now this is where it does interesting, because I haven't seen this figure in a long time. This was also in the DVD age. So this film did gangbusters, massive business in DVD sales. It took $213 million in DVD sales. So
massive.
Practically, 65% of what it took as the box office. So from a budget of $100 million, took home about 4.5 times for the studio. Now, Surf's Up was similarly budgeted, about $100 million. It did open wide on 3,500 screens and took $17.6 million in its opening weekend. Ended its domestic run with only $58.8. Worldwide, though, it did better, taking another $86.5 million. So closed out with a pretty decent $145.4 million. So it only returned about $1.5 million for the studio. But again, healthy DVD sales, another $48 million in DVD sales. So I mean, home video or, home DVD in this instance really had a pretty strong impact. Obviously, massive impact for Happy Feet, but really strong impact for both films. And, from a legacy perspective, obviously Happy Feet had a sequel 5 years later. George Miller was still heavily involved as one of the co-directors and also one of the writers. Yep.
Surf's Up. I mean, I couldn't find that there was anything directly correlated to this in particular. Did you find anything from a legacy, like direct?
They did do a sequel.
They did do a sequel to Surf's Up.
It's called Surf's Up Wave Mania. Now, that came 10 years later and is filled with virtually no original cast.
Right.
The only person who came back was John Heder as Chicken Joe.
Right.
And it's all WWE wrestlers. John Cena, Vince McMahon is in it.
Oh, really?
The Undertaker is in it.
Right.
Triple H is in it.
And was this direct to video?
Pretty much direct to DVD sequel. Right. So it came out 2016, or about 10 years later, and completely different story. No one would come back to do it. It's not a documentary style. It's basically a straight film.
I mean, John Heder needed the paycheck, right?
Probably. So yeah, that's its only legacy as it is. So a very, very forgettable film.
So certainly from a commercial, cultural, and legacy impact, Happy Feet stands head and shoulders, I guess.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
Or Flippers and Beak.
Flippers and Beak
above Surf's Up.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to say it's necessarily sort of like the better film, but using those tools to evaluate performance, there is one clear winner, right? So
yes.
That's interesting. So look, let's jump into the directors.
Okay.
Right. As we've commented, previously, because animation takes 4 to 6 years sometimes to bring one of these films to cinemas or to theatres. There are more than one director involved.
Yep.
Right? That isn't just from a timing and capacity perspective. It sometimes is also from a skill set perspective.
I think it's also a workflow perspective.
And a workflow perspective. So, what was interesting for Happy Feet is that there were 3 directors, not just 2. What I found was super interesting, however, is how you read it on IMDb and how it appears in the credits. I don't know if you picked up on this.
I did. I do remember that George Miller's not first in IMDb. Warwick Coleman is the first name in IMDb. Yeah. I think it's Warwick, and then is it Judy Morris, and then George Miller's third?
That sounds right. I'm not going to debate it.
Yeah, something like that. But I don't remember how it was actually in the film.
But in the credits, Jeff, okay, this is what I found fascinating. So George Miller appears as directed by.
Yeah.
First credit.
Yeah.
George Miller. About, it feels like 30 seconds later, because there's credits in between.
Yeah.
Co-directed by Warwick Coleman and Judy Morris.
Wow.
I found that fascinating. So just in case there was any avoidance of doubt and otherwise. And then if I'm not mistaken, when Happy Feet 2 came out, neither Warren Coleman or Judy Morris were the other. There were 2 other co-directors, but the original 2 co-directors were not them.
Yeah, right.
So who knows? Maybe I'm just calling out, things as they appear in fact, and I'm trying to, suggest a conspiracy theory or something larger.
Well, I think if you're going to, from a studio perspective, to try and encourage people to go, even parents who understand these things, you're going to put George Miller at the top of above the line.
No, I agree. I just found it fascinating how it appeared on the credits and then what happened in the next film. So I don't know if there's something there or not, or maybe it's just a little, coincidence or otherwise. But I just found that fascinating, especially in the credits.
Yeah,
because it's like, hey, here's the guy. Credit. Oh, and here's the other 2 people.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I found that interesting. So, Warren Coleman, one of their co-directors, this was his feature film debut. George Miller, he hadn't done a film since Babe, Pig in the City in 1998. He does this in 2006, and then he does the sequel in 2011, and then 4 years later he does Mad Max Fury Road. Judy Morris, this was actually her second feature film, but her first in 17 years.
Really?
That's a long time between drinks, Jeff.
I did note that she was an actress, so she's an Aussie actress. I also noted that she was a writer because she wrote Babe, Pig in the City with George. So she's obviously been affiliated with him for that. over that period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's really what I had on the directors. Obviously, George Miller has had some massively influential sort of like films, but not super prolific. Sort of like takes his time, obviously, to assemble, the right, thing that he wants to tip so much of his heart and soul and life into.
Yeah.
So Surf's Up had two directors.
Yeah.
You had some real talent involved in this one. Ash Brannon co-wrote and co-directed one of your favourites, Toy Story 2, in 1999.
Yes.
And then Chris Buck did the animated Tarzan film, also in 1999. The powers that be at Sony Animation obviously brought them together to do this in 2007. Post this, Chris Buck then went on to do a little film called Frozen in 2013.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
So some exceptional talent from an animation direction or visual.
Both of these guys started as animators at Disney. So Ash's first job was a trainee on The Little Mermaid.
Oh, really?
Right. Chris Buck goes back to, his first listed job is as an animator on The Fox and the Hound at Disney in 1981.
I'm just glad you didn't say Steamboat Willie.
And then basically he's worked on all of the Disney greats since 1981.
Wow, that's massive.
So, but again, this was pretty much one of his early directing.
So again, the outsized impact of the Disney Renaissance. So you have someone who was there pre-Renaissance, someone who was there at the start of the Renaissance, and they've both worked on some amazing films.
Yeah, absolutely.
So certainly something in the water at Disney Animation Studios over there.
Yeah. What
a training ground. So let's get into some of the vocal talent.
Yep.
So for Happy Feet, we have some pretty amazing sort of like talent. You've obviously got the inimitable Robin Williams playing two roles, Jeff, not just one, two. And he actually has some experience, obviously, in doing, voice work. Obviously, he did Genie in Aladdin, Robots in 2005, where he has the enviable and credit. He also did The Night Listener, RV, The Big White, Man of the Year, Night at the Museum, and this in 2006.
Sorry, in 1 year?
In the same year they all came out. So maybe he shot them or recorded them or whatever.
Over the last year or two.
Last year or two, but they all were released in 2006. So what a year for Robin Williams.
Yep.
Elijah Wood, so he does Green Street Hooligans, Everything is Illuminated, and has a small role in Sin City, and this in 2006.
Wow.
He does two indie movies after this and continues to do voice work across video games, TV series, and movies for the next 3 years. Another key cast member is Brittany Murphy. So she does Love and Other Disasters, The Groomsman, and this, all in 2006, and then produces and stars in The Ramen Girl in 2008, of which I've never seen.
No, I've never seen that one.
But then, obviously, as a supporting cast and the characters who really kind of like took the film away for me, I don't know if they just like, generically South American or Latino, or they're meant to be Mexican or what it is, but they're certainly either from Central or South America, and I'll leave it at that. I'd like to think maybe South America, given its proximity to Antarctica.
Yep.
But I couldn't tell you where because their accents, at least from my uneducated ears, seem to be a bit broad.
I agree with you. Yeah, I just thought broadly Spanishy Mexican.
But they steal the film for me, right? I thought those characters, and obviously Robin Williams plays one of them, they were all just excellent, right? So Carlos Alazraqui, if I've pronounced that correctly, if not, I apologise. He never stops working. He's a highly in-demand voice actor for movies, TV series, and video games.
Yeah, right.
You've also got Lombardo Boyer. He's popped up in small roles in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, a few episodes of The Mayor of Kingstown and The Lincoln Lawyer, and most recently The Accountant 2. Jeffrey Garcia, he's another great, predominantly voice actor, known for Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius in 2001. lent his vocal talents to this and Barnyard.
Oh, yeah.
2006. So he goes for the anthropomorphic animals. That's kind of a key wheelhouse for him or otherwise. So some pretty great talent really across the board in terms of established names, and then really, voiceover experts.
Yeah.
So let's jump over to Surf's Up.
So, sorry, the reason I knew I'd seen this note and I just remembered it. The reason why they do have that accent is because they are rockhopper penguins, and rockhopper penguins come from South America. So that's why they did it.
Boom.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
So Surf's Up.
Yep.
Now, what talent above the line this has as well. So Shia LaBeouf, it's obviously the central character. Now, he does this, Disturbia and Transformers all in 2007, followed by Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I've never heard of that.
Is it the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
It is,
the Crystal Skull?
Does it count as an Indiana Jones film?
I didn't realise it had Kingdom in the title. But when I wrote that down, I thought it was incorrect and I thought I'd check it with you, but it is Kingdom.
I think it is the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Anyway, yeah, that's a forgettable except for a couple of really amazing set pieces by Mr. Spielberg. And he also does Eagle Eye in 2008. So I think that's pretty obvious to go on record and say this is peak Shia LaBeouf.
I think he famously post Transformers 2 went on a bit of a
that's when what was the period called? His dick naissance, where he just became a dick.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so that's when he disappeared out of sight for a while. Yeah.
But again, he was cooking.
Yeah.
Like he absolutely on fire in this period of his career, and good on him. And I thought he played the role again like he did in a lot of the roles. He was great.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good in this. But I think the way him and Jeff Bridges, who is obviously another name, how they played together, like they were excellent. And I love watching Jeff Bridges or listening to Jeff Bridges in this. I mean, I'm not going to go through his CV backwards and forwards like I usually do.
For the year.
Well, but like I just want to say, this one here, he's just like he pretty much gets the opportunity to be the dude again in Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
Right? Like they are cousins. They're related somehow. These two characters. I don't know how to draw the family tree on that, and it gets a little bit spooky. But that is maybe spirit animals. Maybe. His character in Surf's Up is actually the spirit animal to the dude.
You just found the connection.
There you go. Zooey Deschanel, best known for her leading the TV series The New Girl. She does this in 2007. Stars alongside Jim Carrey in Yes Man in 2008 and then 500 Days of Summer in 2009.
Yeah, okay.
So she's going through some sort of run. This is probably peak Zooey.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Now, you've also got quite an amazing supporting cast in this one, like you do in Happy Feet. So let me do Happy Feet first. Hugh Jackman.
Heard of him?
Boom. Now, Robin Williams was busy. So was this guy. He does X-Men Last Stand.
Yeah.
Scoop.
Yes.
The Fountain. The Prestige. And voices Flushed Away. And this in 2006.
Wow.
You have an actress you may have heard of called Nicole Kidman.
Oh, yeah. I've heard her name once or twice.
Plays Hugh's wife. Hugo Weaving as sort of like the chief. Magda Zabansky. It's kind of like a who's who of Australian actors.
Yep.
Miriam Margolyes.
Yep.
Anthony LaPaglia, another great Australian actor.
Yep.
And the late, great Steve Irwin.
Yes.
So let's look at the supporting cast of Surf's Up. Pretty awesome as well. You've got John Heder, who we've mentioned, and look, he had a real run in the mid-2000s, starting off with Napoleon Dynamite in 2004.
Yeah.
The Benchwarmers and School for Scoundrels in 2006. He does this and Blades of Glory in 2007. And hasn't really had a commercial breakout since.
Yeah, I was going to say that you go beyond then and there's not much that he's done.
So I think very clearly this is peak John Heder.
Yeah.
Right? Then you've also got Mario Cantoni, who character actor, always in work, and at least from his Internet Movie Database photo, looks a little like Fred Savage.
Yeah, right.
And James Wood, of course, he does this in the middle of his 2-season run as Sebastian Stark on the legal TV series Shark. And he plays, the sponsor or otherwise of the surfing competition. Pretty amazing.
Reggie Belafonte.
Yeah, pretty amazing sort of like talent either way. I'm going to go early on this one and say I think the above the line, so the key cast for Surf's Up is better as a unit, right?
Yeah.
Or as a collective, if you're looking at them as an ensemble performance, I think they're better, they're stronger.
Yeah.
The below the line talent cannot be denied in terms of Happy Feet.
Yes.
That being said, John Heder and James Woods do exactly what you want them to do.
Oh, totally.
And deliver in spades in their roles for Surf's Up. So it's a really tough one in terms of, hey, who's got the best cast, who's got the best ensemble.
Yeah.
But they both cover themselves in a lot of glory. And in all fairness, like pretty hard to fault.
Yeah.
For mine, at least.
Absolutely. So did you want some other people who have thrown into these?
Let it rip, Jeff.
Alrighty. So at Happy Feet, at any one time, they considered Natalie Portman.
Right.
This is for the role of Gloria, the girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Portman, Halle Berry, Amanda Bynes.
But can any of them sing naturally?
Well, that's a good question, because the one thing I did see is that most of the cast in Happy Feet did their own
They're doing their own
songs.
Yeah.
For the role of Norma Jean, the mother, that Kidman played, Reese Witherspoon. She can hold a tune.
She could have done it.
Yep. Renee Zellweger.
Oh, yeah. Can she sing?
Don't know.
Okay.
Jessica Biel.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I've never seen, what was that film she did with, Richard Gere and Chicago?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's in Chicago.
I mean, I've actually never seen that, to be honest.
No, I haven't seen I've seen the stage musical, but obviously
but I assume that she's singing in that.
Yeah, she must be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She would have been...
An interesting choice.
She would have been interesting. Same as Reese. I would have been happy with any one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jessica Biel.
Yeah, I'm less excited by that prospect.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
See previous comment.
Judy Greer.
Yeah, maybe.
Maria Bello. Not Mario. Maria Bello.
Can she sing?
Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the last one, Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, too young.
Yeah. They were all considered for the role of Norma Jean. Owen Wilson was considered for the role of Mumbles.
Nice. That's actually pretty good.
That would have been a cool one.
You know what? I mean, Elijah Wood is kind of perfect in that role, though.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson brings a different energy. That could have worked. That could have worked. Yeah.
For Surf's Up, they considered Drew Barrymore for the role of Lani, the girlfriend that Zooey Deschanel plays.
I'm not going to argue with that. I think that works.
For the role of Big Z, John Goodman.
That works as well.
Kevin James.
No.
Chris Christopherson.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Bill Murray.
Yeah. Yes.
Mike Myers.
No, not for mine.
And Ray Romano. Were all considered for the role of Big Z.
No. Ray Romano, no.
His voice wouldn't have worked for this.
No.
Because he's in the Ice Age films as the whatever he plays.
Yeah. No, but interesting. I think some real interesting what ifs there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Jeff, I mean, let's get into it because I mean, this is really at the heart of everything that we do for the Reel Rematch. So why 2 animated Penguin films released within 12 months of each other?
It's interesting because obviously we've talked about peak penguins, right? And what was going on at the time. Now, as you said, these take 2 to 4 years to develop. But I couldn't see anything that said that these two were even remotely close to being developed at the same time and aware of each other, right? Mm-hmm. From what I read is basically, it's interesting. There's 2 stories. There's a story that Hugo Weaving pitched this film to Warner Brothers in a very minor way at one point in the early 2000s, like 2001, when he was coming off the back of Matrixes and sequels with the Wachowskis.
Right. Okay.
But there's also that George Miller's producer, George Miller and his producer were in LA discussing a few things and like, what have you got next? And they pitched it. George had become really big on penguins because he'd seen documentaries, and one of his cinematographer friends had actually been to Antarctica, probably one of those he discussed. I didn't see which one it was, and shot a bunch of footage and had sent it to him. And so he became obsessed with them and kind of half created the story. So the story goes that they'd pitched this almost like a treatment to Warner Brothers that was a bit more than that, got back on the plane, landed in Sydney, and had a voicemail saying, cool, let's go for it.
Right.
And that's how they started.
Okay.
But that basically Surf's Up was just, again, Sony Animation wanting to make an animated film and pulled this talent together to do it. I couldn't really find anything that they were, although Surf's Up admittedly was being developed earlier, so like late 90s into the early 2000s. So it actually was being developed before Happy Feet was announced.
Got it.
So,
I mean, look, I think you hit on it really, really well, is that Penguins, mid-2000s, were, it was timely content, it was highly marketable, universally appealing. Again, there was, it was in the zeitgeist in terms of the extreme environment documentaries, the fascination with Antarctica, the climate change narrative, continued to sort of like grow, in volume and noise, and I think this is parallel development, right? I mean, maybe a little bit expedited, and I love the joke in Surf's Up, where Shia LaBeouf's character was asked, he goes, "Oh, do you have any of that talent?" He goes, "Oh, what, you expecting me to sing and dance?" Which is just a nice, switchblade to the gut.
Yeah.
Of Happy Feet. That was quite well done by the filmmakers.
Yeah.
Again, there's just, strong merchandising appeal because of the aesthetic of the penguin. There's global appeal. There's some built-in comedy because they do look a bit funny with their head wobble, like you were mentioning.
Yep.
Easy to read silhouettes. There was simple, iconic shapes, the penguins have. I think you mentioned that, technology, kind of like creates kind of like waves of, hey, what can we do now? The fact that all this stuff was really in the milieu of consideration, and penguins being so hot, and that documentary, The March of the Penguins, which would have been towards the end of the development of these two, or halfway through, whatever it was, the development of maybe Surf's Up, probably validated, the commercial viability of this. So, hey guys, keep going.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Maybe create a bit of separation that our penguin film is better than yours. In market and otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see anything other than, it was in the water.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Part of the pun again.
I agree. Yeah.
So, let's, you started to mention some of this stuff, and, I'd be interested to hear if there's a little bit of both. Real life inspiration for these films, Jeff. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things there from George Miller. What else have you got there?
Yeah, so that was the main one. It was interesting that basically George Miller, his producers, and I think it mentioned a Hugh Weaving were, they knew, again, we're based in Australia. We are probably in a proximity range kind of close to Antarctica where a lot of these guys live. So a lot of these guys go down, a lot of their contacts and friends have gone down south and shot these documentaries and these films about penguins live in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Brought them back and showed them, and that's what made it, became the film it was. But I think for Happy Feet, George Miller is quoted as saying he didn't start out with the film having the strong environmental message that it ended up having. I actually have a interesting trivia point about that, which we'll get to later. So, yeah, that's where that came from. And but the other guys, I think it was just developing a film about, penguins. I didn't find anything. But they wanted, again, what makes theirs unique is the documentary style they shoot it in. And one thing which I had here as part of production stuff is the way they developed the waves in the ocean to move in Tide of Surf's Up was unique and new. They'd never done it like that before.
Well, I also heard that the directors, they said that they would flat out refuse to do the movie unless they could make the waves in the water look realistic.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was that was the red line that they were not willing to cross. And, kudos to them because, the waves look and the water looks excellent.
Yeah. Oh, it does. The surfing scenes that are like surfing documentaries, like we've all seen them in terms of best scenes, and I'm jumping ahead. I love the way the camera, like they're coming down the tube and the camera goes and they go past the camera, just like any standard surfing documentary we've seen hundreds of times.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And actually part of that, creating the correct waves but also surfing footage, they actually, obviously Kelly Slater is in Surf's Up.
Mm-hmm. He
was actually a consultant on the film to help them design the realistic waves and the more realistic surfing imagery. So,
and I mean, it shows, right? And I think they did a great job. But let me sort of, pepper in just some additional information that I found in terms of some of the real life inspirations. So, George Miller for Happy Feet, he consulted penguin experts and referenced wildlife documentaries, including BBC National Geographic material that we mentioned at the top of the pod.
Yep.
He wanted to ground the film in authentic behaviour, even though he was stylising the story and otherwise. The climate and environmental concerns, really do come through very, very strongly, and was, obviously inspired by real ecological issues affecting Antarctic wildlife. So, there was obviously the climate-driven changes in sea ice. There was habitat disruption, plastic pollution, which you obviously see, as a bit of a sort of like subplot point there for one of the roles that Robin Williams plays. The overfishing of Antarctic waters, which is really, at the start of the huddle and, and the crisis they face in terms of, where to from here. The real kind of like focus for Miller was to obviously shine a light around the dwindling supply of fish that the emperor penguin colonies actually had, because that really mirrored the key concern that scientists had, and they were raising at the time. Happy Feet was actually in production before, because we said 46 years or whatever, that an animated film was developed, was before the seminal documentary March of the Penguins was released in 2005. So, Miller himself, like we've sort of just done as we've been analysing this, he acknowledged the surge in public fascination with penguin documentaries and how it did actually help sort of shape or mould certain tonal narrative ideas. And there was a nice, as a result, blend of, realism and myth, I think, in some of the storytelling choices that him and the team took. So I've got some real life inspiration for Surf's Up. And, you've captured it already at that higher level where, surf documentaries, right? In particular, the life and legacy of big wave surfers, right? So apparently, Shia LaBeouf's character, Cody Maverick, his journey actually mirrors the real-world arc of Laird Hamilton, who was an iconic big wave surfer. You've also got Kelly Slater, as you've mentioned, so multiple world champion. Also stars a small role in the film, which is hilarious. He's one of the I don't know. Like in AFL, we call it a boundary rider, but it's kind of like a special comments.
The on-ground commentator.
On-ground commentator. That he also shares that role with another real-life surfer called Rob Machado, who's also in the film playing a similar character. Tom Curran and other surfing pros were, obviously the filmmakers drew inspiration from them and their stories. The filmmakers studied their styles, their personalities and their philosophies and tried to imbue where they could, those into the characters and the story itself. The character that Jeff Bridges voices, Big Z, he's more or less sort of an amalgam of inspiration around the mythology of big wave legends, right? The idea of, surfer as, both athlete and spiritual wanderer. Right?
Yeah, okay.
So think Cane of Kung Fu, but for surfing. So there was also a documentary called Riding Giants, which came out in 2004. The mockumentary style of Surf's Up was directly inspired by that documentary, which is actually directed by Stacey Peralta.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's also inspiration taken from real surf breaks, especially in Hawaii. Even though the film is set on the fictional Penghu Island.
Penghu Island, yes.
The waves and environments draw heavily from Pipeline in Oahu, Waimea Bay, Te Huapo, and Mavericks in California, right? Interestingly, going back to one of those BBC documentaries that we touched on, where the penguins are body surfing, and they just obviously, in the film, that was in the 2002 documentary called Penguins. I don't know if it was called Penguin Surf or that was just a moment that was captured in one of those documentaries. It was literally just showing penguins doing that for fun because they enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And obviously the film takes some inspiration from that. So that's some of the real world or real life inspiration that I took. Aussie Connection. Happy Feet, Jeff. Did you find any?
There's one or two in there.
It's almost like, who wasn't Australian?
That's it.
I think that's a short list.
I mean, even we know that like the animation house was Animal Logic, which is at the time was one of Australia's biggest digital graphics and VFX companies.
So, Jeff, can I share something with you that I found? Is I didn't realise this, but I think, was it like 3 years ago, maybe it was a little bit longer, but apparently Animal Logic was bought by Netflix for about $700 million.
Really?
Yeah.
I was unaware of that.
I don't know. I don't have the right stats and figures because it's a little bit, sort of tangential to what we're doing. But I mean, I remember Animal Logic. I mean, they were obviously huge, for about 2 decades.
Yeah.
And it was like funny as I was watching this. I wonder what ever happened to Animal Logic.
Yeah.
And I Googled it and I came up and went, oh my God.
There you go.
Netflix bought them out. So I think they're really the engine that drives a lot of Netflix's in-house animation efforts now.
Yeah, right.
How about that?
Nice one.
And kudos to the Animal Logic team. That would have been a nice little bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And earn out. So, Jeff, any Australian connection for Surf's Up?
You got me on this one.
No, you got me as well.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't find anyone for Surf's Up.
So let's jump into fun facts.
I want to just do a sidebar here.
Oh, please.
I want to read something called Best Worst Reviews.
Oh, I love that.
I found 2 1-star reviews for these films off IMDb.
Okay.
That made me laugh. Whether you think it's funny or not, I thought it was quite funny. Let's start with Happy Feet, where this lady has decided this is a Disney film.
Okay.
So it's titled Bambi's Mother Dying, Old Yeller and Rabies, but Happy Feet is the #1 worst. So what is Disney's deep message here? Children, if you have something which makes you different from your peers, you'll have to learn to exploit it. Oh, but that's only once you have no other choice. Happy faces will greet your happy feet, so dance, dance, dance and be as cute as a penguin can be. Certainly children should be brought to know that pleasing your captors is the most important thing in life. Captors rule. Remember that Disney taught you this, so it must be true. Can anyone come up with any other message, excepting the other obviously underlying sexual message? A 5-year-old picked up why the dancing was important. It was not to be cute and alternatively attractive. Bambi's mother dying can't beat this. That, however sadly, had a moral. Old Yeller getting rabies and then shot rates up there, but at least it too had a reason. A grim reality of life. This is the worst Disney movie ever.
And that review was written by Karen.
The 1 star I read about Surf's Up actually has, just looking at my notes here, resonated with the whole pink penguin, right?
So can I just rewind? That person seems really angry.
Yeah, and when you go into these 1 stars with some of these people and you read what they've seen about these films, they are pissed off. Like,
wow,
just angry, like, at all sorts of things. So,
I mean, I've got to admit, Jeff, like, the film was, for me, was more like junk food for the brain. It was like comfort food, and otherwise, like, I mean, it was really inoffensive.
Yeah,
is what I'd say to both films.
Yeah, absolutely.
But enjoyable, highly enjoyable.
Yeah,
both films. So that's an interesting take.
Yeah. So let's go Peak Penguin on Surf's Up.
Let's do it.
1 star. The title of this one is I Popped a Blood Vessel.
Okay.
I swear if I see one more stupid penguin movie, I'm going to go John Rambo on someone.
Wow.
Why does everything have penguins now? They suck. I hate them so much. Don't let anyone else fool you. It's just another penguin movie. Only this time they mixed it with the Blair Witch Project and surfing. The camera jumps, which is rather stupid considering that it's computer animation and there was no camera involved. It gave me a headache worthy of a hospital visit and it made me severely ill. That's not to mention the fact that there was not one of the penguins that did not make me want to shoot someone and that the only jokes throughout the entire thing were about fecal matter. Just don't bother with it. You'll end up very angry and finding yourself with nothing better to do than to trash it at every chance you get. 1.1 out of 10.
Wow. So a lot of penguin hate there.
Oh, my God.
Can the authorities please make sure that person never attends a SeaWorld or penguin enclosure at a zoo?
I think they should be on some sort of watch list from the thing out of
100%, Jeff.
So,
photo behind the sort of like the ticket booth or entrance gate or otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I found those. I thought it was just worth bringing to your attention.
Wow. Before
we get to some fun facts.
Well, yeah.
Alrighty.
That's concerning.
Yeah. So, what did I find here? All right. So, I'll start with Surf's Up, shall we? So, similar to what we did a few episodes ago on Shark Tale, this one was also recorded where the dialogue was recorded with all the actors in the room. So, unlike sort of traditional animation where they're on them by themselves in an ADR booth, this saw them actually being so that they could bounce off each other and kind of get that rapport going. And also, while they were doing that, a lot of the actors like to use props while they recorded their lines. So, for example, Zooey Deschanel carried a sandbag, similar to the way she was holding that octopus. That was like a Baywatch red thing.
The squid or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, for the life buoy. Yeah.
And James Woods would actually throw things at the production crew like his character does to the documentary makers. So,
and not just because of method acting, because also because I think he's a dick.
Yeah, he's James Woods. So, yeah. Because it was shot as a documentary, all those interview scenes are improvised. So there was no dialogue, just here's your 3 point, that's what we've got to do.
Oh.
So I'm not sure if you saw this. The two directors, Ash Brennan and Chris Buck, they're the actual documentary makers. So they are the actual voices and they ask all the questions of the documentary makers. Every single shot in this film has some sort of grain in it. Like an actual film. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So they did it to make it totally consistent with the documentary style of the film. So there are less than 900 shots in this film, which is a relatively small amount for a big budget animated movie.
Yeah, right.
So, which again, you don't really notice, but yeah, less than 900 shots.
You really don't.
Yeah. And after seeing Napoleon Dynamite, the filmmakers had no doubt that John Heder was the only person and he was the only person they thought of for Chicken Joe.
Look, he is fantastic in this. Credit where it's due.
Yeah. So, and then just on a random point, Cody Maverick is a macaroni penguin. Scientific name, Eudipites chrysophilus.
Huh.
There you go.
There you go.
Throw him some scientific stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I do have some extra research and I realised I messed up in a category that we had not too long ago.
Oh, dear.
Is there an Australian connection?
Oh.
Found one.
Okay.
Just wasn't noted where it should have been noted, Jeff.
Yes.
So we've already mentioned Kelly Slater and Rob Machado. Hopefully I've pronounced that gentleman's name correctly. But other real-life famous surfers are shown throughout the film as part of their Pengu contest. Those surfers, Jeff, are Renato Mendes from Brazil, Rory Nubbins from Australia. So he's the guy with all the hair of his eyes.
Ah, okay.
Eyes.
Yeah.
And Tatsuhei Kobayashi from Japan. How about that?
There you go.
So we mentioned some of the real life locations and breaks that served as inspiration for the filmmakers for some of the waves and otherwise. So Cody Mavericks, California, that was referenced. That is known around the world to big wide surfers. Most of the waves, most of the time, average highs of 25 feet and at the highest, waves are 60 feet, right? Wow. Events are held annually there during the winter months, usually November through to March, depending on how favourable the weather conditions are for the competition. So the other few things that I found is that the Big Z Memorial Surfing Competition is based off the Quicksilver in memory of Eddie Ayaku competition. The competition is only held when the waves are upwards of 40 feet. So that's some serious big wave.
That is serious big wave surf.
It's like 30. No, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
So also interestingly, the editor of Surf's Up, Ivan Balancio, is a highly accomplished surfer in his spare time.
There you go.
So I don't have any dimensions as to what highly accomplished actually means or reference, but maybe that was a Wikipedia entry by himself.
Could be.
Both Cody and Lani are named after characters in Baywatch, played by David Chokachi and Carmen Electra, respectively.
Is that right?
100%.
Didn't know that one.
So that's a nice little Easter egg.
Yep.
Interestingly, we mentioned this, I think, at the top. And we certainly mentioned it when we're doing Madagascar versus In the Wild. But going back to Madagascar was initially a mockumentary film or a rockumentary film about penguins, and more or less Surf's Up kind of like took the concept of mockumentary and ran with it with penguins, just without the rock and surf.
Yeah.
So the other really, really interesting thing that I did, which I think is another amazing Easter egg, is Jeff Bridges' character of Big Z faked his death and assumed a new identity as the geek. Right? Spoiler alert. Too late. Apparently, this is a tribute to James Woods' previous film. Well, not the one film he did directly before, but a film he did about 20 years before.
Yeah.
The gangster classic Once Upon a Time in America came out in 1984, where the same thing happened with Woods' character.
There you go.
So nice little sort of referential
interconnectivity
moment there by the
there you go.
filmmakers. So good job by them.
Cool.
So Jeff, let's move over to Happy Feet.
Yeah, no worries. So this was the first animated film to use motion capture instead of the more traditional film. So instead of traditional animation style, this one used motion capture. As part of that, all members of the cast had to go to penguin school so that they could learn to move more like penguins. And so, because they were all, at some point, all of them did some form of motion capture.
So to get the head wobble,
get the head wobble, the waddling of the thing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All the dancers in the film, we did all the big dance sequences. They're all motion capture performances, and those actual dancers were in motion capture suits with large actual headsets that were shaped to resemble penguin heads so that they moved more like penguins naturally when they danced to try and get the realism of it. So now the zoo, where Mumble wakes up in the penguin exhibit in the zoo, is actually the San Diego Zoo penguin exhibit.
That was in the previous review and never visits ever.
Absolutely. And now in terms of music, so as a nice little tribute in there, at the end of the film, when the dad, Memphis, Hugh Jackman's character, is singing Kiss, the Prince song, and the helicopter flies in overhead.
Yeah.
And he stops and he turns to Mumble and he says, "I think you'd better dance now." Do you remember that? That's actually a direct tribute line copy to the Tom Jones version. When he sings Kiss and then stops in the middle and goes, "I think you better dance now." That's why they inserted that line in there.
Nice.
So, and speaking of Prince, originally he did not give permission to use the single for Kiss. So the filmmakers did a screening of the film for him to try and get him to do it. He loved it so much that he agreed to write the song that goes over the end credits. So it was never there originally. He did it because he loved the film when they first saw it. So it gave him permission for Kiss and then write the end credit sequence.
Interesting. Look, I've only got one thing to add.
Okay. Right? I've got a semi-big one, but I'll leave that to the end. You tell me your quote and I'll send you. So
this is further to the San Diego Aquarium scene. So not what you have?
No.
Okay, good. So when Mumble first arrives at the aquarium, the penguin he speaks to talks like Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. He even calls Mumble Dave.
Oh, really? That's fantastic.
Hello, Dave.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's an Easter egg that I certainly appreciated on that one. Look, I don't have anything else. I've only got like some shots that I want to kind of call out because I think there's moments in both of these films that I think are exceptional.
Sure.
The list would have been long. I've sort of contained it to 5.
Okay.
Her.
Well, why don't I leave my little, because I've got a big story edit which relates to some of the shot for the way the film ends.
Okay.
So, wait, if you want to leave that to the end, I'll leave that to the end.
Sure.
Shots.
Yeah, so shots for me is Mumble tapping the inside of the egg, the tiny flippers bouncing in it's sort of like perfect sync. It's also the very first sign that Mumble's different, through obviously rhythm and movement and otherwise. Some pretty good, feet work by him. So I thought that was a really, good, just because, again, this is a visual medium, just how much it communicates. I love the massive Emperor Penguin chorus. So this is the glorious / Mumble contrast scene. This is when the hundreds of Emperor Penguins are doing Somebody to Love in a circular formation, and just that contrast between polished, harmony of Gloria and the colony to, the chaotic sort of tap dance that Mumble does. And again, like, the lensing choices, there's sweeping crane shots, there's, wide shots. It feels like, or it's mimicking a live concert film. So
yeah, it does.
Great job by them. There's also the killer seal attack, right? It's almost like an action film. You know how much I love action films. There's long tracking shots, where it's really the chase of the seal line of them. There's all the underwater sort of like POVs. There's some glowing bioluminescence that, James Cameron would end up essaying a few years later in Avatar. But I thought that was a pretty powerful scene. That was really good.
Yeah.
The human trawler revelation. It was where penguins saw humans for the first time. Myth becomes reality, right? And it's a bit of an existential moment for the penguins. It actually got a bit dark, a bit real, and that's where a lot of the the higher order comment on society and what was happening to the ecology of Antarctica really started to come to the fore. It was just such a sharp tonal contrast of mine. That's why it really stuck in my head and went, kind of paying attention to that now. Right? Yeah. So, there's that great shot as well. It's a wide shot of like the massive net descending and stuff. It's just, it was a good one. And then Mumble's final dance before the humans. This is pretty much the Save the Colony performance. Yeah. There's the overhead shot of, hundreds of penguins dancing in unison. It's a crane shot. I think it's just like pulling up and otherwise. And it's a pretty iconic shot for mine. I thought that was, again, really well done. So that has to be all George Miller. I would imagine.
I'd say so, I'd say some of the very cinematic approaches that are very much like live action film that probably add to a lot of that would be George Miller. Yeah.
And again, I read that like there was actually some real life footage where they use like satellite imagery, where they're looking down on Earth, at the start of the film, and there's some other things where they kind of intercut. And I think animated films, to qualify as animated films for the Oscars, 75% of the content has to be animated. But this was a blend of animated, real, and hybrid. Yeah. And you can actually tell in something to go, oh my God, that animations are real. Actually, you know what? It is real. Yeah. So, but anyway, great job by all the directors. Yes. It's just laying at one person's feet. So before I move on to Surf's Up, Jeff, did you have any shots that really stuck in your mind for
I liked similar to the avalanche surf.
Oh, yeah.
As an action sequence as well, particularly when they get into it and then suddenly realise the danger it's become. Yeah. I thought that was quite sort of edgy of your seat, the way that was shot. It's really, really good. But then also that's the first revelation of human interaction because you see the digger suddenly falls through the water as well, and then the sort of shaky lady thing floats past him, right? I thought that was really, really cool. Right. So, but most of the rest of it was same as yourself. So, For Surf's Up for me, very simple. All the surfing scenes I thought were just fantastic, absolutely fantastic, because they were done so realistically and so authentically that you could have easily been watching a documentary about penguins actually in a surf competition.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let me jump into Surf's Up. For mine, Cody riding his first big wave. So that's where the documentary style long lens sort of like shot is there. You know, he's dropping in on a massive wave, sprays mist in across the camera lens. It's like a real cameraman sort of tracking him. I mean, just like some of the stuff they do to replicate that documentary feel. So, I mean, like, kudos to them. I just think they did an exceptional job for that. So, I mean, like, they were up against Ratatouille in 2007 for the Oscar, so they lost to Ratatouille.
Okay. Which
Ratatouille is a brilliant...
Oh, it's an amazing film.
Brilliant film.
Yeah.
So I think they got a bit unlucky that year, but Surf's Up for mine is like, it really is high caliber. I mean, the gentleman who went on to do Frozen, he obviously got the Oscar for Best Animated back in for the 2013 Academy.
Yes.
Going back to other shots, so Tank's entrance, right? You know, where he's standing tall on his board, you know, sunlight's blasting behind him, giving him a gladiator-like aura, and otherwise, you know, I think he says, "This is my wave," or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I think just establishes that character, you know, very quickly, very economically. It's just exceptionally well done.
Yeah.
I'd also say the lava tube sequence where Cody and Big Z are surfing in the glowing cavern. And it's a beautiful environment. You know, it's that natural cathedral of like shifting red light. There's water reflections dancing across volcanic stone. There's somewhat of a magical quality.
Yeah.
And just that, you know, that side by side, you know, and how they're bonding through a shared passion and love, not just the environment and otherwise. It's just well done. Like, you know, I think it's hitting all the right notes. Also, Big Z revealing himself with there's that slow zoom push in through the hut doorway. He turns towards camera. He's half in shadow. There's surf shavings floating around him. That's just really well done. It feels very cinematic.
Yeah.
So, you know, good shot, you know, by them, and good job by them as well. And then I'd say probably the final shot where Cody's walking towards the sunset waves. So it's that closing documentary frame sort of style that they've gone for.
Yeah.
So it's a great storybook ending. It's kind of the framing of how the epilogue of a documentary would otherwise work. It's a great emotional payoff, you know, in terms of just being humble, quiet, and reflective, which is set against that. And just that beautiful shot of him just silhouette against the burning orange sunset, you know, as he's walking towards the sea, carrying his board. Again, so like there's actually some really beautiful moments throughout Surf's Up. So again, great job by them.
Nice. Excellent. All right. Would you like me to drop the big one on you before we finish?
I'm waiting.
All right. So for Happy Feet, an early cut of the film, and this was an entire subplot that existed until about a year before the film came out, was that there were actually extraterrestrial aliens near the end of the film, whose presence was made gradually more and more known throughout the film, because what the aliens were planning to do was siphon off the planet's resources gradually, like suck the energy from the sun, placing the humans in the same plight as the penguins, where they're chasing to get what they need as things get taken away from them, right? So that was cut only in the last year of production. So out of the 3 years, that was still a part of the film and being worked on. So the idea was that at the end, thanks to Mumbles and what's going on with him and the dance, the aliens, their hand is stayed, they don't do anything, but instead first contact is made. And as the film ended, he came out and the aliens were like these ethereal penguin-shaped alien species. That was going to be the end of the film. So
it's kind of like The Abyss?
Yeah, a bit like that, yes. But also there's apparently concept art for this, although you can't really see it anywhere. But what is still in the film that exists as part of this is all those smash cuts that pull out into space.
Ah, right.
Right? You know how they pull away from Earth and they start with the shot of Earth and then they do that dramatic pull away from the do all the way out? That is still existing from that subplot.
Well, I'm really glad they cut that out.
Yeah. So
Jeff, who won the rematch?
I've got to say, I mean, I like Happy Feet and it's a great film, but I got to say, I agree with you. I like Surf's Up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We're aligned. Surf's Up blew my socks off. I thought it was. I mean, it's only 85 minutes. It's extremely well executed. It's tight. It hits all the points. Like I want to see in any film, irrespective animated or otherwise.
Yep.
And like even though my very obvious bias for sort of Australian actors, content or location, otherwise, Surf's Up was just phenomenal. I thought. I mean, not to take anything away from Happy Feet, but yeah, Surf's Up certainly was.
Floated your boat.
Several surfboards above. Happy Feet for mine. So. End of the pod, Jeff. What have we got coming up next?
All right, so next episode, we're going to take the volume down. We're going to go into look at some low volume horror. We're going to look at A Quiet Place and The Silence. So,
Jeff, looking forward to it.
I'm not, because as you know, I'm not a big horror fan. So this one's going to be, I'm going to say it's going to be a challenge for me, but obviously I enjoy challenge.
Well, I'm looking forward to your WhatsApp messages of night terrors.
I look forward to sending them. All right. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks, Jeff.
Cheers.